Most people spend their entire life trying to fix the world around them. They are wrong. The world will never stop being loud. People will never stop being cruel. Storms will never stop arriving without warning. And as long as your peace depends on the silence outside of you, your peace will be borrowed. Borrowed peace is not peace. Borrowed peace is the calm of a man standing in the eye of a hurricane, smiling because the wind has not reached him yet. A truly untouchable mind is something else entirely. It is built, not borrowed. It is built in years of small refusals, built in the moments you chose not to react, built in the long, quiet hours when you discovered that no one was coming to rescue your peace and you would have to forge it with your own hands. If you are listening to this, something inside you has already started to change. You may not see it yet. You may still feel shaken. You may still feel as if every insult, every silence, every disappointment has the power to ruin your whole week. But somewhere, deep beneath the surface of your old self, a new structure is forming. In this speech, you will learn the 7 signs that this new structure is taking root. You will learn how to recognize that you are no longer the person who falls apart every time the world misbehaves. You will learn what mental untouchability actually feels like from the inside before anyone notices it on the outside. You will learn what the world stops being able to do to you once you have crossed a certain line in your own mind. But be careful. Once these signs begin to appear in your life, you cannot go back to who you were. You will lose your taste for drama. You will lose your patience for shallow people. You will lose your appetite for arguments you used to find meaningful. You will lose entire friendships, not in dramatic fights, but in slow, quiet evaporations that no one will explain because no one will need to. The old version of you will die quietly, and most of the people who knew that version will not understand the man who replaces him. Some will accuse you of changing. Some will accuse you of becoming cold. Some will accuse you of forgetting where you came from. Let them. They are not wrong about the change. They are only wrong about its meaning. You did not become cold. You became sovereign. That is the price of becoming untouchable. Pay it. The first sign is this: their words stop landing. For most of your life, you were a soft target. Every comment found a wound. Every criticism found a doubt. Every silence from someone you cared about found a story your mind had already written about why you were not enough. That was not weakness. That was untrained. A trained mind processes words differently. It hears them, but does not absorb them. It receives them, but does not store them. It lets the sound enter the room and then watches it leave, the same way the air leaves a window that has been opened. You will notice this shift in a strange way. Someone will say something that 6 months ago would have ruined your evening. You will hear it. You will understand it. You will recognize the intention behind it. And then nothing inside you will move. There will be no tightness in the chest. There will be no spinning in the head. There will be no rehearsing of a clever reply at 3 a.m. The words will arrive at the surface of your mind, find no entrance, and dissolve. This is not numbness. Numbness is the absence of feeling. This is sovereignty over feeling. You felt the word. You decided what it would do inside you. You decided it would do nothing. And then it did nothing. Most people will never understand the difference between these two states. They will look at you and assume you have stopped caring. They will look at your calm and call it indifference. They will look at your silence and call it disrespect. But you will know the truth. The truth is that you have begun to govern your inner weather. The truth is that the storms still pass through the sky of your mind, but the ground beneath them has finally hardened into something they cannot move. The truth is that you have built in private a kind of immunity that most people do not even know is possible. That is the first sign. You have stopped being a public surface for other people's noise. The second sign is this: you stop seeking closure. For years, your mind treated closure like food. You hunted for it. You begged for it. You stayed in rooms long after they were burning because someone had not yet said the words that would make the leaving feel permitted. Then one day, without warning, something inside you stops asking. A person disappears from your life and you do not chase the explanation. A friendship ends and you do not request the meeting. A chapter closes mid-sentence and you simply lower the book and walk into the next room. You realize, somewhere quietly, that closure was never going to come from them. It was going to come from you the moment you stopped negotiating for it. And the moment you stopped negotiating, it arrived almost casually, the way light arrives in a room when you finally open the curtain you have been afraid to touch. The untouchable mind does not require finished conversations. It does not require apologies that were never going to come. It does not require the satisfaction of being declared the wronged party in the official record. It closes its own chapters. It writes its own endings. It writes its own verdicts on the people who heard it. And it files those verdicts away. And it moves on without checking whether the accused has appealed the decision. And it walks away without checking whether the other person agreed to the version of the story it has decided to keep. This is the second sign. You have stopped outsourcing your peace to people who never invested in it. The third sign is this. Your peace no longer depends on outcomes. Look honestly at your past. For most of your life, your peace was held hostage by results. If the deal closed, you were calm. If the deal collapsed, you were shaken. If the message was returned, you were settled. If the message was ignored, you were destroyed. This was not living. This was waiting. A waiting mind has no peace of its own. It only has the borrowed peace of getting what it wanted. And the moment the wanting changed, the peace collapsed. But something has begun to shift in you. You still want things. You still pursue. You still build, still dream, still set goals that matter. But the wanting no longer owns you. The pursuit no longer rules you. The outcome no longer decides whether you are allowed to feel like yourself. You can lose the contract and still sleep well that night. You can be ignored and still eat slowly the next morning. You can fail at something publicly and still walk through the next day without the weight of the failure pressing on your chest. This does not mean you have stopped caring. It means you have stopped collapsing. There is a difference, and the difference is the foundation of every untouchable mind. You care. You do not crumble. You hope. You do not depend. You want. You do not beg. You build. You pursue. You reach. But the part of you that decides whether you are okay no longer waits at the door of the result, holding its breath, ready to collapse if the news is bad. That part of you has moved. It now lives somewhere deeper, where outcomes cannot reach it. This is the third sign. You have moved your peace inward, where no result can reach it. The fourth sign is this. You feel nothing when people leave. For years, a person walking out of your life was a small earthquake. The bed felt larger, the phone felt heavier, the hours of the day suddenly had no shape. You miss people not because they had been good for you, but because their presence had been familiar, and familiarity is the cheapest substitute for love. Then one day, someone leaves, and you notice something strange. The earthquake does not come. The room is quiet. The mind is steady. The chest is open. You do not chase. You do not text. You do not lie awake constructing the conversation that could have kept them. You simply note that they are gone. The way you note that the weather has changed. This is not coldness. This is calibration. You have finally adjusted your nervous system to understand that not everyone who arrives in your life was meant to stay. Some people were lessons, some were mirrors, some were temporary teachers who finished their job and walked off the stage. Their leaving is not betrayal. Their leaving is completion. And the untouchable mind feels completion the way a tree feels autumn. Without panic, without protest, without trying to glue the leaves back onto the branches, you let them fall. You stay rooted. This is the fourth sign. You no longer mistake every departure for abandonment. Pause and listen carefully here. Most people will never reach even this fourth sign in their entire life. They will spend 70 years in a state of constant emotional reaction, governed by every text that arrives late, every friend who grows quiet, every door that closes without warning. They will die never knowing that there was another way to live. You are choosing the other way. That is not a small thing. That is a quiet rebellion against the way most human beings have agreed to suffer. And it is a rebellion that no one will applaud because no one will see it happening. The work is invisible. The transformation is internal. The only person who will ever truly know how far you have walked is the person you have become. Keep walking. The next signs will demand more of you. The fifth sign is this: compliments and insults begin to weigh the same. For most of your life, praise lifted you and criticism crushed you. You walked through the world like a man checking his pockets every 5 minutes to see whether the opinions of others had changed his net worth. That is exhausting work. And the strange truth is, the praise was almost as dangerous as the criticism. Because the man who needs the praise to feel whole is owned by the same crowd that can break him with a single insult. He is just temporarily lucky. The untouchable mind notices something. A compliment arrives. He receives it politely. He does not float. An insult arrives. He receives it just as politely. He does not sink. He has begun to understand that the same crowd that crowns kings will, on a different evening, demand their execution. So he stops trusting the crown and stops fearing the execution. He simply does the work. He simply lives the life. He simply walks the path that was his to walk before anyone in the audience opened their mouth. The compliment does not feed him. The insult does not starve him. His sense of self is no longer assembled from the loose change of public opinion. This does not mean he becomes arrogant. Arrogance still needs the audience. It just disagrees with the audience. What he has become is something quieter. He has become independent of the audience. He hears them. He thanks them. He continues. There is a deep peace in this. A man whose self-worth is no longer dependent on the room he walks into is a man who walks into every room without needing it. He does not soften himself for the people who could praise him. He does not harden himself for the people who could criticize him. He simply enters, present, the same person he was before the door opened. That is rare. That is what the world quietly begins to respect, even when it cannot name what it is respecting. This is the fifth sign. You have stopped renting your self-worth from the crowd. The sixth sign is this: you stop performing for an audience that was never paying attention. Look around at your life. For years, you have been performing. You performed your happiness on the days you were exhausted. You performed your success on the months you were drowning. You performed your strength in front of people who would have respected you more if you had simply admitted you were tired. You performed because somewhere deep down you believed that if you stopped performing, the audience would leave. But here is the secret no one tells you. The audience was never watching that closely. They had their own performances to run. They had their own anxieties to manage. They had their own quiet collapses to hide. The crowd you were terrified of disappointing was, in truth, barely looking up from its own life long enough to register yours. The untouchable mind realizes this, and something inside him relaxes. He stops curating. He stops editing. He stops checking the mirror before answering the door. He becomes one person, in private and in public, in good seasons and in hard ones, in front of allies and in front of enemies. The performance ends not because he became defiant, but because he became too tired to keep two faces, and the tiredness gave way to a freedom he did not know existed. You may notice this in small ways. You stop posting things you do not feel. You stop laughing at things you do not find funny. You stop saying you are fine when you are not, and you stop saying you are not fine when you are. You stop laughing louder than you feel, just to fill the silence. You stop nodding at opinions you secretly find foolish, just to keep the peace. You stop dressing your truth in softer clothes, just to make it acceptable to people who do not deserve the original. The mask slides off, not in a dramatic moment, but in a series of quiet ones. until one day you realize you have not put it back on in weeks. And here is the strangest part. The people who truly mattered will respect you more. The people who only liked your performance will drift away, and you will not chase them. Their drifting is not a loss. Their drifting is a sorting. The audience is being filtered for you by your own honesty. And what remains, eventually, is a small circle of people who can sit in a room with the real version of you and not flinch. That circle is worth more than every crowd you used to perform for. This is the sixth sign. You have stopped being a character and started being a person. The seventh sign is this. You can sit alone without becoming restless. This is perhaps the rarest sign of all. For most of human life, solitude is a kind of unbearable noise. The mind, deprived of distraction, turns inward and finds rooms it does not want to enter. Old wounds, unfinished thoughts, quiet shames. The discomfort is so sharp that most people reach for the phone, the screen, the conversation, the food, the noise, anything that will silence the inside by replacing it with the outside. This is not solitude, this is escape. The untouchable mind develops a different relationship with the empty room. He sits with himself. He does not reach for the phone. He does not search for a voice to interrupt the silence. He notices the thoughts that arrive and lets them arrive. He notices the discomfort that visits and lets it visit. He notices the past trying to enter the present and gently, calmly returns the past to its drawer. After enough of these sessions, something extraordinary happens. The empty room stops being empty. It fills with himself. It becomes a place he wants to return to instead of a place he is constantly fleeing. He begins to enjoy his own company the way other people enjoy a long conversation with an old friend. He becomes, in a way no one taught him, his own home. And the man who is his own home cannot be made homeless by other people. He can be insulted. He still has somewhere to return to. He can be abandoned. He still has somewhere to return to. He can be misunderstood by every person in the room and walk out of that room and meet himself in the silence of his own company and feel instantly that the misunderstanding never reached the deepest part of him. He can lose everything external and walk back into the silence and find himself there, waiting exactly where he was the day before. This is what the world cannot give you and cannot take from you. This is the only true wealth. Not money, not status, not the love of others. Those things are beautiful when they come, but they were never going to be the foundation. They cannot bear the weight of a life. They are decoration on a structure that must be built somewhere else by you, alone in the rooms that no one else will ever see. The rooms of your own mind, the hours of your own silence, the quiet relationship between you and the only consciousness you will ever fully inhabit. This is the seventh sign. You have become a place you can live in. Now hear this. If even 3 of these signs have appeared in your life, you are already further along than most people will travel in a lifetime. If 5 of them have appeared, the old version of you is almost gone. If all 7 have appeared, you are walking through a world that no longer has the keys to your interior. This is the meaning of untouchable. Not invincible, not immune, not cold, simply ungovernable from the outside. You will still feel things. The untouchable mind is not a stone, it is a depth. Things land on the surface and do not reach the bottom. Storms pass across the top and do not stir what lies beneath. You still cry, you still love, you still rage at injustice. But none of these movements at the surface will pull you out of the depth where your real life now lives. People will sense this in you before you fully see it in yourself. They will treat you differently. They will lower their voices when they speak to you. They will choose their words with more care. They will stop offering you the small disrespects they used to offer freely, not because they have changed, but because something in your eyes has stopped accepting them. Some will love this new version of you and draw closer. Some will resent this new version of you and slip away. Let both happen. You are no longer in the business of managing other people's reactions to your becoming. You are in the business of becoming And one day, far enough into this path, you will realize that the events that once would have shattered you have begun to simply pass through you. The betrayal will arrive and find no fuel. The insult will arrive and find no wound. The loss will arrive and find a man who has, against every odd, become a country of his own, with borders he himself has drawn, with laws he himself has written, with a quiet capital city no foreign army can reach. That is mental untouchability. It is not the absence of attack. It is the absence of available entry points. Imagine a fortress with 100 small windows left open. And now imagine the same fortress with every window quietly closed, one by one. Over years of patient repair, the attacks have not stopped. The attacks will never stop. But the building no longer breathes them in. The wind passes over the walls and finds no opening. The arrows arrive and find no skin. The siege continues, but the city inside is finally, fully at peace. You are that city. You have closed your windows. You have raised your walls. You have taught your inner streets to be unafraid of any storm passing outside, because the storms have lost their ancient permission to enter. Walk this path. Hold these 7 signs in your mind, not as a checklist, but as a compass. Notice when each one begins to appear. Honor each one when it does. Do not announce them to anyone. Untouchable minds do not advertise themselves. They simply exist, and the world adjusts slowly around the new weight of their presence. You were not born to be governed by every passing storm. You were not born to be wounded by every careless word. You were not born to live as a public square that anyone may enter and disturb. You were born to be a still center, a quiet country, a mind that hears the world without obeying it. So become it. Become it in the small refusals, in the long silences, in the moments no one is watching. Become it in the hours of solitude that strengthen you and the days of disappointment that no longer ruin you. Become it slowly, patiently, without announcement, until one day the people who used to reach you no longer can, and the version of you who once could be touched is so far behind you that even you can barely remember his name. Hear this final instruction. Untouchable does not mean alone. It does not mean hardened. It does not mean closed. It means rooted. It means anchored. It means built from the inside out by a person who finally decided that his peace would no longer be the property of the public. You can still love deeply. You can still grieve fully. You can still let people in. Only now you decide who and how far and for how long. You are no longer a door that opens to anyone who knocks. You are a country with a gate, and the gate has a keeper, and the keeper is you, and the keeper has finally learned what to admit and what to turn away. This is the path. Walk it, and let the world finally meet the mind it cannot move.